and we're delighted today to be joined by Adrienne Batra, the editor-in-chief of the Toronto Sun. Adrienne, welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. So here we are. It's Friday, March the 9th at 12 o'clock.
Yes.
And after a series of extensions, this should have been the time about 2 minutes ago when the voting for the new PC leader ended.
Correct.
This morning, people are in court asking for an extension. As of when we started broadcasting, we don't know what's the outcome of that.
Yes.
But we've had deadlines for registering, deadlines for voting extended already, and presumably tomorrow afternoon, an announcement of who the new PC leader will be. It may not happen though.
Well, it's possible that it may not happen, only because of the court, one of the PC party members asking for the court injunction. And as you said, we're still waiting on whether or not that's going to happen. I will just put a little prediction that it's not going to happen, only because courts are generally not in favor of getting involved in private in party politics. So it's a private operation, and so they're loath to do so. And plus, it's a pretty high threshold to demonstrate to a judge why there needs to be a halt to the or delay in the vote, because one of the things that the court would like to see is a demonstration that they violated their own rules. I think that's a pretty high threshold to do that. They'll be hard pressed to do that. The challenge the party has right now, though, is you have, if we're being generous, let's say 170,000 members, which is extraordinary and unprecedented in Canadian political history. That's amazing. And as of right now, I mean, the numbers that you and I have are around 65,000, maybe 70,000 members have voted. 71,000 were verified as of this morning. So that's not even half. So you see the argument on the one side that people are going to be disenfranchised, that they're going to have an illegitimate vote, that whomever becomes the leader, it's not fair because it wasn't the entire membership that had the chance to put him or her in that place. So the party's got a challenge on its hand, not only from the court perspective, but also even if that's disregarded and just thrown out. Tomorrow's results, there will still be questions swirling around that. And I think if I know anything about Conservatives, the worst thing that they do to themselves is circle the wagons and point the guns inward and start shooting at each other. But I would hope, because Ontarians are looking for change, we know that from the polling, and just purely that the Liberals have been in power far too long. Whomever the leader is come, let's say 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, they need to reach out to the rest of the camps and just everybody needs to unite and move lockstep come March 11th to defeat the Liberals.
Well, I mean, you can see the other side though, and I have the similar numbers that you have. I've talked to a couple of Conservatives that are members for a while, not just in the lead up to this leadership process. There's a two-step process. First, you get a letter from the party saying, here's your unique identifier, go online and register. And then once you've done that, you're supposed to receive by email, I think, an electronic ballot and where you rank your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice for leader. So some people haven't received the letter. I think Doug Ford this morning said his mom hadn't received the letter. So that would give you pause. And then others who did receive the letter and went online and registered but haven't received their ballot. So there are questions there, and it's as we believe right now being discussed in a courtroom. And I agree with you. I don't think the judge is going to overturn the PC party's own.
No, I don't think that they will, because that in of itself would also be quite a significant precedent to be set. So I'm going to give the party a little bit of slack here, because this is an unprecedented situation. This is the most abbreviated, shortened time frame in order to have a leadership race, and it's pretty extraordinary. Especially when you have so many thousands of members. And then you had this sort of other narrative coming from the interim leader that there's rot in the party and they need to root that out. That's not helpful either, for party members to have confidence in the system. And so we're sort of seeing some of that erosion happening and then chipping away at it based on what we see with the extensions, and we need to extend this and the balloting and things like that. So they've been in an unprecedented time. I think they've done a decent job in the short period of time in which they've had. Was it perfect? By no means. Will it ever be? Absolutely not. What I find interesting, however, is at the federal level, the Conservative Party of Canada and other jurisdictions, the Conservative parties or more center-right-leaning parties in BC and others, they've sort of gone through this process before. I'm a little surprised that the Ontario Party didn't necessarily either reach out to somebody to sort of get a good framework of how this could operate, to sort of alleviate some of these issues and challenges that they faced. Perhaps they did, and they didn't take the advice. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't in those rooms. I wasn't in those conversations. We in the media just rely on leaks coming from inside out. We'll report on what we can. But my general sense, just to give your viewers a sense of what we've heard, is that it has been chaotic, it has been a hot mess, and it has been somewhat disorganized. Yet, in some of that chaos, there has been an ability for still thousands of members to go ahead and vote. So whether that's good enough, I mean, that's not up to me to decide. That's up to the party to decide.
All right, so let's talk about it from your perspective then, and others will do what they'll do with the process. At some point, a new PC leader will be announced.
Correct.
From your perspective then, now that the campaign is over, considering voting ended 7 minutes ago, we've had 4 candidates that were there from beginning to end. Doug Ford, Christine Elliott, Caroline Mulroney, and Tanya Granick-Allen. From your perspective, share with us how, through your lens, each of them has performed.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I have a personal history with the Ford family, having worked for my former Mayor Ford, so I know Doug very well. I think Doug has done a heck of a lot better than people anticipated. You know, they expected sort of this, bull that brings his own china shop with him, and just rushing through and all of the things that, they accused Rob Ford about being, over the top and gregarious. And Doug is certainly all those things, but Doug is, he's plain spoken. He's candid. People love him. And all of the places that he's gone around the province, from all indications from me, he's treated like a rock star. So his name recognition is through the roof, as we know. And I think he's over. I think I think people are surprised by the expectation of him. They had low expectations, and he's over-delivered in that he's been able to talk about some policies. He's been able to discuss and articulate, what he would like to see as new leader and potentially premier. And so I think a lot of people changed their perspective a little bit on Doug over the course of the last few weeks for the better.
And we had him on here 2 weeks ago, and you don't have to guess or try to figure out what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's pretty direct.
Yeah, he's very plain spoken, and a lot of Ontarians, well, anybody in general, frankly, that's what they appreciate. That's what they like, and that's frankly how the Fords have been, and that's how they've operated for a very long time, including their dad. When Doug Ford Sr. sat as a member of provincial parliament, Rob and Doug would always tell us stories about, the speeches their dad would make, and it was just very honest, plain-spoken, straightforward. People respect that. People appreciate that. So I think from that perspective, Doug has done well, and I think he's going to be, for a lot of people, it will be the first choice, but for some of the Elliott voters, potentially a second choice ballot decision as well. So let's talk about Miss Elliott, who is the perceived front-runner, if we believe any of the polling that we've seen. She has been played a very much of a safe campaign, very much a front-runner campaign. I've interviewed her for a couple of one-on-ones a couple of times throughout the course of the last few weeks. And one of the things I would say about Christine is, because this is her 3rd time at it, and she'd all received a lot of criticism after the last one in 2015 when she lost against Patrick.
I thought she was going to win that one.
Yeah, well, a lot of people did. I don't think a lot of people anticipated just how effective Patrick Brown's ground game really was. And certainly Christine Elliott's people didn't anticipate that. But here we are. She's in an unprecedented situation where she gets a 3rd opportunity to do this. And she seems more passionate about it. She seems more hungry for it. And I think part of her work that she did as a patient ombudsman, first appointed, I think that has given her even better perspective. I think being away, frankly, Joe, from Queen's Park has been very good for her. And, that daily gong show that's happening there, and, it's being away from that is helpful. And I think she's done very, very well. You sort of, we use this thing, who's the adult in the room, and Christine is perceived, I think, as the adult in the room. And so I think she's done well. She did well and fine in the debate. She performed fine in the roundtable discussion they had on TVO.
She calls herself Kathleen Wynne's worst nightmare.
Well, she does call Kathleen herself that, absolutely. And I wrote a column to that effect just 1 week ago in the Toronto Sun. I think I think, if anything, if we want to look at it from the Liberals' perspective, they fear a Christine Elliott win more than they certainly would a Caroline Mulroney or Doug Ford win. So from that perspective, yes, she absolutely is Kathleen Wynne's worst nightmare, because what an extraordinary thing actually that would be if we sort of just step away from the actual leadership race. You know, having 3 women, and for the PC Party of Ontario to have a woman, not for the sake of having one, but just for the first time ever in their party's history, having a leader as a woman, which is extraordinary. But just that debate stage, you know, what the dynamic that would look like between Wynne, Horwath, and maybe Elliott or Mulroney, if it's her or Granick Ellen, but not likely. I think that in and of itself would be pretty extraordinary.
That would be a first. We haven't seen that before.
It would be a first. So from that perspective, yes, Ms. Elliott's done well. Let's talk about Ms. Granick Allen for a moment. This is a candidate that was perceived to have one issue. She wanted to blow up the sex education program. She is, again, very plain spoken, clearly knows her issues, and has caught a little bit of fire. I mean, she's
actually pretty good.
She's very passionate.
Yeah.
She knows her files. She knows what she stands for. There's no wavering with her. And I think that for a lot of members that saw her in the debate that just happened last week, they may have thought, okay, I thought she was just this one issue wonder. However, she's clearly has some concerns about, you know, the Green Energy Act and the energy file and taxes and all these other things. Maybe we don't agree with her that she's going to be able to rip, you know, windmills out of the ground, as she'd said. But she's passionate and she's fiery and she has a very strong core belief. But I think she may have moved some votes to her. Just from her debate performance alone, and the more she's gone out and talked to people. Now, of course, then there's the other side that say, "Oh, she's over the top. She's just one trick wonder, and, you know, she's got nothing really to add." I think she has a very strong future in this party.
Well, she may. I mean, my one criticism of her in the second debate, the Ottawa debate, was that by that point, Patrick Brown had re-entered the race and then dropped out. Mm-hmm. And she seemed to be the one of the 4 that was preoccupied with him.
Yeah.
Kept bringing his name up, when I think a lot of Conservatives maybe would want to, like, let's put that behind us now and
Correct.
go forward. And
Yeah.
yet she found occasions during that debate to reinsert his name into the discussion, which I thought was unnecessary.
And I would agree with you. I think it was far too often that she dropped the PB bomb. And I don't know what her strategy was there. I think only to sort of, I think part of it was to say, Ford, Elliott, and Mulroney have all said in some way, shape, or form that they're willing to open up to Patrick, and if he gets the nomination again, I think Ms. Granick Allen perceives the other 3 leadership candidates having been very soft on Mr. Brown, whereas she wanted to separate herself and say, no, this is the guy that supposedly put rot in the party. This is the guy that was, alleged sexual misconduct. I am not going to give this man any platform, nowhere, no how in my Conservative Party of Ontario. So that, I think, was her rationale. She just bringing that up. It was too much. You're absolutely right. It was unnecessary because it just. I think if anything, the Ontario Conservatives needed to move away from that distraction, and I will give Patrick credit for getting out of the race to not be the distraction. Recognizing that it's far bigger than about him. It's about the party and the future of the province. But Ms. Allen clearly feels that it's her stake to say no. Brown will have no part of this party. Whereas again, the other 3 have been, except for Ms. Mulroney, she actually was pretty adamant about.
What do you think of her
position.
performance? First time,
all right.
Big spotlight.
Well, let's talk about Ms. Mulroney. I think there's a lot of great expectations of her, a lot of great hope. It's funny. I remember I've met her a few times, and the one thing that you always hear about her, she's lovely. Well, she absolutely is. She's competent. She's smart. She's educated. She's articulate. But she never caught fire. And when you are in the world of politics, you kind of have to believe the words that you're delivering, like the lines that your staff says
Speak
to you.
with conviction.
Yeah,
right?
believe in it.
Yeah.
I think that was missing, and I think that a lot of people picked up on that. I think here's what I would say: if Ms. Mulroney had the election 1 year from now, I think we would be having a very different conversation, because you could see her getting better and better over time, more comfortable with the speaking, more comfortable with the crowds, more comfortable and more easily relatable to the average person, even though she's had this, what some would perceive as a life of privilege. She's got the last name and all of that. I give her full marks and full credit for trying and going. She's going to make a fantastic member of provincial parliament. If the Conservatives win the next government in June, she will be a senior cabinet minister. And then who knows what happens in the course. She's young. She's in this for the long haul, in the party, I believe, for the long haul. But I think those very high expectations of her didn't quite materialize. And so it's sort of interesting that you see some people actually talking about that she may come in fourth against Grant Allen, which I don't think necessarily will happen, but I think she'll probably come in third place. But again, because it's the rank ballot, Elliott's people will likely go to Mulrooney. Mulrooney's people will likely go to Elliott. I mean, Ford will get some in between. So you never know with a ranked ballot system what can happen.
Well, let's speculate a little bit then, because before this leadership started, the party, Patrick Brown announced that there were 200,000 members, and then subsequently, I think interim leader Vic Fideli declared that about 75,000 of those were rotten. So that leaves you about 120,000, and the throughout the leadership process, the numbers has swelled to 190.
Absolutely.
So if there were 100,000 members or so that signed up and joined this party for nomination reasons or for whatever reasons they had under PC leader Patrick Brown, where are those people going?
Well, I would think that most of them would likely go to Christine Elliott, and I think Doug Ford will pick up a portion of them as thereof. And I only say that because of what happened in 2015. I mean, Christine was the one that came in second to Patrick. So that's sort of maybe a natural place for them to go. Now, with that said, I think the people that signed up purely to support Patrick Brown feel loyal to him, and maybe they didn't vote. Maybe they sit on their hands. Maybe. I mean, that's a part of it as well. But as I said before, this is a very highly motivated membership base. They know what's at stake. I honestly think that the membership has a better sense of what's at stake than maybe the four leadership candidates do, the future of this province. So they do want to get out there. There's a lot of people that don't like what happened, Patrick. They don't like how it unfolded. They don't like any of how he was treated. So some of them would be ticked off. But I think their more natural constituency is potentially to go to Christine because, where a lot of people had suggested, well, she should just be the natural governing leader regardless because she came in second place last time. Now, I don't buy that necessarily, but I think that she will benefit the most from Patrick's support.
All right, and notwithstanding, we don't know who the leader will be. I was in a boardroom the other day with the board of directors of a client organization. Vic Fideli came to meet this group, and I asked him how much of the party platform that was launched last November, the People's Guarantee, some, none, or all, is likely to survive under a new leader, and he doesn't know, and he didn't want to presuppose or speak for the new leader. So notwithstanding the fact that we don't know who the leader will be, we don't know what the platform will be, there's a lot of turmoil. People have resigned under various cloudy circumstances. The most recent polls tell us that a good number of Ontarians want to see that party form the next government, which is, to me, a little bit mind-boggling because you don't know what you're getting. You don't know who you're getting, you don't know what you're getting, and yet some of these polls in the last few days have them up at 48, 49, even 50%. What's your thought on that?
I think that says more about the Liberals than it does about the Conservative Party of Ontario, actually. I think it's just, when you've been in power for 15 years, people just are sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of their energy bills. They're sick and tired of the waste. They're sick and tired of the corruption, political corruption. They're sick and tired of the lawsuits. They're sick and tired of the court cases and allegations here and there. Ontarians in general just want to move on. And I think change is and they believe change is coming. And they may not know in what form it's coming, but it's coming. And so this would sort of bring me to a pivot, and maybe it might be in the form of the NDP. But Andrea Horwath has been in the witness protection program. She hasn't capitalized on the chaos and the turmoil from the Tory party. She hasn't benefited from the absurdity of the Liberal government of Ontario and their spending. I don't know where she's been. I don't know if she's just waiting to sit back and to see who's going to be the new leader, and then she's going to have a strategy and attack plan then. Who knows? But yes, even though the NDP is an opportunity here, they haven't capitalized. So let's just, for argument's sake, say it's going to be the Conservatives that form the next government. Change. It's just that simple. It's in the air, it's in the wind, it's out there, and it's coming. And the Liberals are going to have a very hard time. It's an insurmountable number. I mean, 81% of Ontarians said that they want change. That's extraordinary.
The DART
That was
CFRB
yeah,
poll.
that's right.
That's right. Well, I mean, I found it a little bit incredible that that many people are willing to say, yeah, if an election were held today, I would be voting for the PC party, even though I don't know who will lead them, who the premier will be, what they're campaigning on, what their agenda would be. I'm going to vote for them.
Yeah.
So you touched on the NDP a little bit, and I'll say that, the night that Patrick Brown had his press conference, when all of this started, was the night of January 24th.
That's right.
And on the morning,
seems like a lifetime ago now.
It seems so long ago. On the morning of the 25th, there were some pundits and people that I talked to who said the big winner, with that problem happening in the PC party, a Liberal party where the Premier's own popularity numbers are not very high, that the NDP would be the big beneficiary of all of this turmoil. It hasn't panned out at all.
It hasn't.
Witness protection program, that's interesting. Okay, well, you brought up the Liberals, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Liberals in the time that we have left. So a couple of days ago, the Minister of Finance, Charles Sousa, gave a speech. He announced that the budget will be tabled March 28th, which is a key date for a lot of our people who watch this. And in that same speech, he signaled that there will be a deficit in this budget, and in his words, it'll be less than 1% of the provincial GDP. So all of people like us looked and said, okay, the most recent number of the provincial GDP is $794 billion. So 1% of that is $7.94 billion. So the headlines all said $8 billion deficit. Is that fair to say? I mean, he did say it would be less than that. It would be up to, we don't know. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't know.
But the problem I think we have in general with the Liberals is who knows what to believe. I mean, it's last year they told us they were going to be in a balanced situation, and which was going to be convenient enough for going into the provincial election. I think that they've continued to have a massive spending problem. They continue to have an unsustainable, with big program spending. They've had very comfortable relationships with the unions, and that's cost taxpayers a lot of money. You argue one way or the other. They bought their way out of, they bought themselves labor peace, so to speak. That all costs money. And so I certainly wasn't surprised when they said that they were going to have potentially $8 billion deficit. None of what they say is really, rooted in fact, to put it that way. So it's a good strategy in that they got out ahead of it, and now it's out there. Everybody who follows the political world right now is so focused on what's happening with the Tories that it's the classic Friday afternoon announcement. If you got something bad to announce, like higher taxes or more debts coming, or a strike is coming or something like that, you announce it on Friday afternoon at 3:00, so it generally gets buried, and the media is all like packing up for the weekend and things like that. Social media, of course, has changed that, but still, nonetheless, there's still a ability to sort of bury the bad news on a Friday afternoon. It sort of reminds me of that, because they know that there's a distraction right now on the other side of the aisle, political aisle, and get this out, get it done, quick, dirty, and then we'll move on and we'll have our budget date, and look at us, we're going to do something amazing. So who knows what the goodies that they will have in that election budget, because it will be an election budget.
This is it. I mean, I would question whether or not the statement that there will be a deficit necessarily makes it a bad budget. I mean, I think I'd be more inclined to see what's in it.
Right.
And the other question I would have for you is, like, all of these parties do their own polling and research and focus group testing and the like. If the Liberals felt that a balanced budget were key to just before an election, this thing's going to be tabled March 28th and we're voting June 7th, they would have balanced the budget.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable strategy. But on the other side, the left in this province sort of has the narrative, right? We're the ones that are going to take care of you. We're the ones that are going to provide you health care. We're the ones that are going to give you education. We're going to make sure that your children are reared from cradle to grave. I mean, I don't believe in that philosophy, and I think that a lot of people have a question mark with that because it's very expensive. Now, and then on the other side, they'll say, then you have the Tory party. They want to rip up contracts. They're going to fight with the teachers. You're going to have Mike Harris all over again. They're going to use that. They're going to drop that. So Liberals, I think, in general, feel they have sort of the moral authority when it comes to governing in this province. Fair or not, I don't think it is. But I think that's their sense, that they can pretty much say, we're going to have a $20 billion deficit, but these other guys are so bad, they can't even run their own party. How the heck do they expect to run the province? So we're fine, we're going to be okay. Don't worry about this deficit. It's small. We'll tackle it. The challenge with that narrative is we just had a federal budget with a massive deficit and a huge debt that continues to balloon. If Ontarians in general don't feel like they're getting any value for that money, that's when they change perspective. And I would even submit to you that Liberal voters, people who tend to vote Liberal, don't necessarily feel like they're on board with where this government has gone. So yeah, it's an interesting way of putting out a budget strategy, but I don't think it will work.
Without revealing the contents, at least he
Yeah.
put it out there that there will be a deficit, so
Yeah.
that when that day comes, we don't all say, oh my God, there's
Yeah.
a huge deficit in the budget. He's
Right.
preconditioned people to be expecting it, to be ready for it.
And you're also going into an interesting time. You're going into March break. There's far few people paying attention. People generally know, as you and I are aware of this, Joe, that they only start really honing in on an election maybe 2 weeks before. So right now, this is all just fodder, great stuff for you and I to talk about. For the print industry, it's been fun, and for us in the media.
Lots of content for you to write about.
It's been great.
Yeah.
However, there's still a lot of heavy lifting that all of the parties need to do, especially if they want to be engaged with Ontarians. It's just still, as quick as the election's coming, it's still pretty far out.
Right, and just in the time that we have left, your thoughts on the Premier Wynne has said openly in public forums all over the place that she feels that the role of government is to level the playing field, and that her government has been conscious of leaving no one behind. So
Right.
we've seen things like minimum wage increases, we've seen things like the OHIP Plus, pharmacare for everybody under 25.
Yeah.
She has governed in such a way that if those who perhaps don't have a lot of money or high income have been looked after. How do we take that and then look at these polling results? And does that mean that Ontarians generally don't care about that? Or is it, as you said, strictly, they've been in power too long, it doesn't matter what they say, I just want someone else to run it?
I actually think it is just that simple. But just, I'll touch on sort of what you said with respect to the Liberals wanting to take care of us, like the nanny state sort of situation. What they have done is they've made it quite difficult for anybody, be it the NDP or be it the Tories that become the next government. They're making it very difficult for them to unwind any of these big social programs, like the OHIP Plus, for example, like broadening, even all-day kindergarten and things like that. So those I suspect will be lasting, very expensive legacies of the Liberal government. The NDP is more apt to, of course, expand those social programs and expend more and spread the tentacles of government even further, whereas the Conservatives want to reduce spending, reduce taxes, and things like that. So sort of just going back to your original question about the platform, the People's Guarantee, those tax cuts are baked into that guarantee. However, all of the 4 leadership candidates have said, to heck with the carbon tax, we're not going to do any of that. So yes, they're going to have those value for money audits that you always hear Conservatives say they want to have. I would only say this. If Ontarians want to know really what's going on with the finances in this province, just go to the Auditor General of Ontario's website and just look at the reports for the last 10 years. You want an unbiased, fair, honest assessment of where your money has gone, take a look at the last 10, and that will tell you everything you need to know.
All right, well, I don't know how many people are actually going to do that, because I find that the Auditor General's report comes out and it's about a 24-hour event within sort of 500 feet of the Legislative Assembly, and then everybody kind of
Well,
forgets
and governments
about it.
say, oh, well, we're going to accept all these recommendations, we're going to adopt all the recommendations, unless, of course, the current Liberal government under Wynne has actually taken on the Auditor General in a couple of instances and questioned her, and I mean, it's pretty extraordinary.
It has not been a cozy relationship
No, not
between the
comfortable
Auditor
at all.
General and... all right, so any predictions? PC leadership, who wins?
Oh boy,
If you don't want to go there, it's
I
fine.
think I'm going to keep my powder dry on that one and just see what the membership has to say, and
How many ballots?
best of luck to them. I think by the end of it, we'll probably see about 75,000 votes cast.
All right, and there's 4...
Oh, how many ballots will they
Yeah.
rank? Oh, I think we'll have a winner by the second ballot.
Second ballot,
Yeah.
I think so as well. I don't think we're having a first ballot winner with 4 candidates out there.
Not possible.
And it's going to be interesting to see whose supporters go where and to whom.
And it's not a particular, and it's not a conventional convention, right? You don't get to jockey for, like you see one candidate going over to the other side and saying, I'm going to bring my support. So it's
dramatic walkover.
The results will be known by some computer people tonight as they continue to count.
You think it'll be leaked?
No, I do not. I believe.
As a media person who depends on leaks, you won't be looking
I
for
would
leaks?
love that, but no, I do not. I do not believe it will be leaked. I think they have a pretty secure. No Russian bots, getting in on this one.
Oh, yeah, that's, yes, way to subvert democracy. All right, well, Adrienne, thank you so much for your time. I
My
know you're
pleasure.
incredibly busy, and there's lots to do. That was great insight for people that are watching us.
Thank you.
We will stay tuned to see, A, what the courts decide today.
For sure.
B, if the thing goes forward tomorrow, who wins, and then starting Monday, if we do have a winner declared tomorrow, what it starts to look like, what the new
Absolutely.
leader will put in place. We'll be looking for a platform, we'll be looking for a front bench, we'll be looking to see all of those things, and we'll look to see if the government makes any adjustments. And to quote you, we'll see if Andrea Horvath emerges
That's
from
right.
the witness protection program that you said. So it's great. Thanks very much for this, and thank you everyone for watching us today. Just want to give a special shout out to our two new people that have joined Sussex, Oog in our Ottawa office, and to Lauren here in Toronto that has joined our municipal team. Welcome, and we will see you all next week when we will have somebody from the Liberal side of things who will talk about what their game plan and their strategy might be, given that they'll know who the new PC leader is and their primary opponent, and how all of that will unfold leading into the June election. So thanks everyone, and we will see you next time.